good Saturday morning. Don't know what the date is. 14th of October. It's a lovely sunny day, but we had quite a cool night. And the first thing that you will notice looking at the screen is that my autumn winter net is on. I have put that on this morning. Temperatures are forecast to go down as low as 2 degrees tonight, and the pond has actually lost 5 degrees in the last 2 days. It was at 19 on Wednesday, Thursday, and it's now down to 14. So bearing in mind autumn has started to hit us after a very unseasonably warm start to the month of October. I've got my net up, and I've had this net on the last 3 winters, and the purpose of this net is to keep the winter leaves out of the pond, because I have the big wisteria there right next to the pond, which will drop all those leaves, and then there's an oak tree there and a big beech tree there, and the leaves from them blow into the garden and swirl around, and without a net they end up in the pond, which isn't a massive big deal, but if I can keep them out, all the better. So that's why the net is up, in preparation for those trees to start dropping their leaves. Now, a couple of things since the last update. Was talk about filters first. The Oasa Screenmatic, which was there, has gone again, because for the 3rd year on the trot the sensor has blown and it's not working. So I would say that having had that thing having had it 3 years now, that has not proven to be a good buy. Its reliability is very poor. The build quality on those sensors is clearly not up to task, and I won't be putting it back on the pond again, I don't think. It's out of warranty now, so a new sensor would set me back about 80 quid, I believe, and I'm just not prepared to do it for something that's not going to last. So the Screenmatic has gone, and like I say, I don't think it'll be going back on. To be honest, my Nexus is perfectly capable of dealing with this pond. I didn't have the Screenmatic on at all last winter, just the Nexus, and it did a perfect job. Now obviously with the net up, the auto feeder has gone as well. I took that down about 3 weeks ago now, and I've been hand feeding them since. They are now on a wheat germ based food, 6mm pellets, and they really like it, so I'm tempted to make that their permanent food, because it's got a 38% protein content, so it's got plenty of protein for them, and being wheat germ, obviously it's easy to digest, so I think I might make it their permanent food from now on. As you can see, they're all fairly well up in the water. They were all on the bottom after I first put the net on this morning, but it doesn't take them long to get their confidence back, and they're all looking great. I can't see any injuries or damage to any of them. What I am debating in my head at the moment is whether to salt the pond for the winter or not. I did salt it for the last 2 winters and the fish came through the winters really well. This pond isn't heated, so you know they will have to cope with whatever the weather throws at us this winter. And I just feel a little bit of salt in the water can help, especially keep bacterial infections and parasites at bay during the winter. So I'm undecided at the moment on whether to put salt in or not. Now I turned the UV off as well this morning because the daylight hours have greatly reduced, and I don't think the UV is really needed now. I will monitor that over the next week or so, but I can't see that being a problem, having turned the UV off. I didn't have the UV on all last autumn and winter, so I'm just going on the fact that the temperatures are due to drop, and colder, shorter days tend not to cause algae in the water. So the UV is off. Just a couple of other little updates. The Nexus itself is now covered. I cover it during the winter in a it's a patio table cover actually that I got off Amazon or eBay, I can't remember, but it does the job. I keep the Nexus covered in the winter to keep as much rainwater out as possible, but obviously rainwater falls on the pond anyway. But I do have my overflow here, so if it does rain heavily, the pond doesn't get over full. And last weekend we turned the area here, which was really just weeds, to be honest. We turned it into a bit of a rockery with some spare rocks that I had over from doing the pond, and so we bought some more slate, moved a couple of the pond ornaments onto there, the plastic ones, to stop them blowing in the pond in the winter, and that's just tidied up that area of the garden and means my view from my chair is much more pleasant. I'm not looking at weeds over the back of the pond, I'm looking at a rockery now. I haven't had any fish out of this pond this year. I think that is one of the reasons they've done so well. I remember Martin of Devon Coy once saying that he only ever gets his fish out as a last resort, and that's really how I've operated this year. If I've had to scrape anything, I've kept it in the net, in the water, in the pond, just done a scrape and then released it straight away. But I've not even scraped these fish since probably April, when we had flukes in the pond. Once the flukes were gone, they've not shown any sign of any parasites since, so I've not felt the need to put them through the stress of a scrape. Some of them are getting a really good size though. This Karashigoi is the biggest fish in the pond. I've just noticed that this Shiro appears to have had a bit of a growth spurt this year, which is very pleasing because it didn't really grow a lot last year. The Makashi here, that's grown massively since I first had it. And even the little Benigoi, the fish I bought back in May, I think it was, that's doubled in size this year. So very happy with growth and health of the fish. They're following me around because they're hopeful of a feed, but they're only getting 2 feeds a day at the minute. Once we get to November, that will go down to 1 feed a day, and then I'll reduce that feed to a small feed come December, January, February, and I won't be feeding when the pond's below 10 degrees. Tends to hover around 10 degrees through much of the winter, this pond. The lowest it got last year was 6, which wasn't too bad considering we had quite a bit of frosts, and it's an unheated pond. I guess being in the ground helps insulate it to a certain extent. So that's my autumn update. Hope you're enjoying this view of the fish that you've got at the minute. Obviously the net is not making it perfect, but as you can see, they're all looking great, very active, and I'm very happy with them. So I will catch you in the next video, whenever that may be.